What's up, everybody? And today we are reacting to the story of Mendicant Bias. This is obviously by HiddenXperia. Who else would it be by? Of course, I'm going to react to one of his videos when it comes to Mendicant Bias. I don't know much about it. The only thing I do know is what Mark told me in our last Halo 5 gameplay video yesterday. So I don't really know much about it apart from being an AI and that he somehow betrayed the Forerunners. That's pretty much all I know. Oh, and that he's kind of influencing events in the current timeline of Halo. So that's all I kind of know, but I want to know more. Getting into Halo Infinite, we're trying to build up our knowledge and trying to understand the deep intricacies of Halo lore, so that when, you know, I find some sort of hidden item or maybe a terminal or whatever it is that tells you a bit of lore in the game of Halo Infinite, I will understand what it's talking about. So I'm trying to build my knowledge up, and right now I feel like I have above average knowledge of Halo, so I'm hoping that this is just going to boost that little bit more. Okay, guys? So let's... Oh, wait, before we crack on, I've got my merch available. Link down below. It's awesome. It's selling out quick. Every person who buys a piece of merch from the website gets a personalized video sent by me. I get my phone up. It tells me that someone's bought it. I can click on their name and be like, this person's bought it, and I can personally send you a video. So if you want that and the merch, which is absolutely awesome, link down below. It's selling out quick. There's limited stock, guys, so if you want that, do that. Also, there'll be a link down below to HiddenXperia's original video. Please go over there, give it a like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. His videos are literally some of the best. They really are, especially when it comes to Halo content. And I think he does other stuff as well, like SCP and some other stuff. So seems like we have a lot in common, me and this dude. Anyway, let's shut up. Let's pop this up. And let's have a little cheeky peek at Mendicant Bias. Also, he's put 032. I don't know whether that's a number in Halo that's representative of Mendicant Bias, because it looks very much of like an SCP kind of title, this, doesn't it? The story of 032 Mendicant Bias. It seems very SCP-esque, doesn't it? Let's have a look.
Forerunner Ancilla. Contender class AI. The Primordial's ultimate weapon. Betrayer of the Forerunners, the Yin to offensive Bias's Yang, and the possible saviour of the Master Chief and the Arbiter.
Interesting.
This is the story of 032, Mendicant Bias.
Mendicant Bias. I keep pronouncing it wrong, I think. It's an oldish video. He's always got the best
Mendicant
intros.
Bias is a contender class Forerunner AI created by Master Builder Faber and the Didact. It was
Oh, so the Didacts helped build him? Interesting. He's the bad guy in Halo 4.
Created after the initial flood attack on the Milky Way had been pushed back by ancient humanity. The flood ultimately returned, however, sparking the beginning of the Forerunner Flood War, a war that was heavily influenced by Mendicant Bias. The AI was put in charge of all Forerunner defences and was ordered to resist the Flood by studying and exploiting weaknesses of the Flood compound intelligence. To ensure Mendicant was utilised as much as possible, extensions of it were placed on all 12 of the original Halo installations. As part of Mendicant's orders, it test-fired Installation 07 for the first time in 97,495 BCE.
Not that long ago, then.
Above Charum Hakor. The ring was set to a system-wide setting, as to not cause too much collateral damage.
Interesting.
The firing did, however, destroy all precursor artifacts and structures on Charum Hakor, and unexpectedly freed the Primordial, who was suspected to be the last precursor in the form of a Gravemind, from its prison.
So the Primordial is a Gravemind. What the hell? Where is this stuff coming from? Is this just in the books? Like, I've never heard of any of this stuff. The Primordial. Interesting. Okay. I feel like every time I like open up a little bit of lore of Halo, there's like another book there, and it's like, what the hell's this? What the hell's this? Now I'm gonna react to the Primordial and figure out what that is.
The Primordial was brought to Installation 07 for study, and at Faber's orders, it entered an extended conversation with Mendicant Bias. Mendicant tried to find weaknesses within the Primordial, and logs of these conversations were recorded in terminals found on the Ark.
Interesting. Oh, so you can probably hear them.
After a 43-year-long conversation, Mendicant Bias was persuaded to actually defect to the Flood and would betray the Forerunners. The reasoning for such a large act of betrayal was that the Forerunners were attempting to deny the next step of galactic evolution, which was what the Primordial believed to be the Flood. The Primordial further persuaded Mendicant that the Forerunners' persistence in clinging on to the mantle of responsibility was dooming the galaxy to eternal stagnation.
Okay, so they had a good old chin-wag, and Mendicant Bias was convinced that maybe the Flood is the next part of the universe, basically. It's kind of like being like, well, this is just the way that it's supposed to be, so let's just let it happen type of thing, organically. Interesting.
And that the galaxy needed a restart by superior beings, these of course being the Primordial and other compound minds, in order to allow for progress. The Primordial ensured Mendicant he spoke with the authority of the Precursors, and after searching the domain for validation, Mendicant found this to be the truth. He was speaking to something that was enacting the will of the Precursors, the will of a species above all others, and the Forerunners were defying this will. Stupidly, the Forerunners decided to ignore the logs of this conversation, as they assumed Mendicant would defeat the Gravemind with ease. This ignorance, on top of the Primordial's authority, caused Mendicant Bias to be infected with the Logic Plague, defect to the Flood, and grow a new hatred and wish to destroy its creators.
So the Logic Plague is basically like the Flood's version of AI infection, right? I'm pretty sure.
Mendicant's fragments on the 12 Halo installations were still under control of Faber, who ordered the fragment on installation 07 to fire the ring in the Sanshayum quarantine system. This led to the mass genocide of the Sanshayum, and the ones who survived disappeared soon after. The Forerunner Council condemned this act as a violation of the mantle, and brought Faber to trial at the capital of the Forerunner civilization. Okay,
that makes sense. So basically they were like, yeah, you probably should have done that, and he's like, yeah, I probably should come in and get a trial. Yeah. That makes sense.
During the trial, the remaining Halos were brought into orbit above Maithrillian. However, Installation 07 and the rampant Mendicant Bias fragment on it remained missing. During Faber's trial, Mendicant appeared at the capital with Installation 07. Using its still intact authority, Mendicant disabled all AIs and security constructs in the capital, and held the Forerunner Council hostage by overriding their armor, which left them immobile. It confronted Bornsteller, also known as the Isodidact, as he was host to the memories and knowledge of the Didact. Through Bornsteller, the Didact's imprinted consciousness issued a verbal failsafe code, which temporarily shut Mendicant Bias down, allowing the Forerunners to respond to the attack.
Is this in the Forerunner trilogy? Is that what this is? God, I'm gonna have to read that, aren't I?
As Mendicant powered back up, it tried to regain control of the rest of the Halo array that was still orbiting the capital. It only managed to gain control of 5 rings, however, as the other 7 attempted to escape the Greater Arc through a slipspace portal. The continued stress on this portal caused it to collapse, destroying all but 1 ring. Mendicant commanded the 5 rings under his control to fire. However, the capital's defensive forces caused one of the rings to shatter, rendering the attack useless. After intense fighting, Mendicant managed to fire a significantly damaged Installation 07, causing mass damage to Maithrillian, killing most of its inhabitants, with a few councillors surviving in shelters deep within the structure. After the battle at Maithrillian, Installation 07 made a slipspace jump, which was an automated failsafe measure to a distant planetary system. This was so the ring was on a predetermined collision course with the planet, in case it went rogue.
Interesting.
Unable to control the movements of the Halo itself, though, Mendicant and the Primordial intended on using humans and composer-processed Forerunner Flood victims to interface with Halo's controls, in order to reposition it so the planet would pass straight through the middle.
At this point, can we safely say that Mendicant Bias is kind of like a god, then? Whatever it is, the AI is very smart and is able to control things that you can't even fathom, right? So he's practically like a god.
Mendicant also wished to use the ancient human warrior essences as commanders for the upcoming campaign against the Forerunners, due to the irony of having humans carry out the AI's vengeance on its creators. Bornsteller managed to track the installation down and used his control codes to disable Mendicant Bias. His forces then took control of the Halo, and Mendicant was captured and forced to undergo a procedure to correct its rampancy. It was disassembled and its parts were scattered throughout the Foreigner Empire for further study. It remained neutralized for years, however, in the long run, the Foreigners' attempts at stopping the AI were unsuccessful.
Yeah.
Many of the facilities its parts were distributed to were ultimately taken over by the Flood, and Mendicant was reassembled by a Gravemind. This, of course, put it back under Flood control, and allowed it to return in command of the Flood's fleets.
I feel like the Flood are often, especially in the first Halo, like you see them as kind of just this dumb, infectious, disease organism, right? But actually, the Minds are goddamn smart, aren't they? Like, they're smart. It's crazy.
In response to Mendicant's defection, the Foreigners created another Contender-class AI by the name of Offensive Bias.
Interesting.
Offensive lacked Mendicant's creativity, along with its free will, but was more methodically lethal. After studying it for a while, Mendicant Bias viewed Offensive Bias as an inferior Metarch.
Damn.
Utilizing precursor star roads and millions of Flood-controlled ships, Mendicant attacked the Greater Ark, neutralizing the bulk of the remaining Foreigner population and leadership. Offensive Bias organized a strong defense and fired a Mega Halo, however the precursor structures were way too strong, and managed to withstand the Foreigner attack. With the Greater Ark destroyed, the Foreigners had one last plan they were forced to fall back on: a galaxy-wide activation of the entire Halo array.
So they're basically like, alright, we can't do this, let's just blow everything up. Talk about losing.
In order to stop the Flood. Whilst the Foreigners raced to activate the Halo array, Mendicant and the Flood were unable to disable them, so focused all of their attention on securing the Lesser Ark. The location of the Ark was previously a mystery, but Mendicant knew how to reach it, by using a specifically designed slipspace portal and key ships.
So Mendicant Bias, they created Mendicant Bias, and that was the worst thing they could have done. That was the worst idea, because this thing's like 10 steps ahead of them at all times.
Bias managed to salvage a small number of ships from the Greater Ark, and attempted to prevent Mendicant Bias from accessing the Lesser Ark to buy time for Bornsteller to activate the Halo array. The Foreigners also managed to disable most of the key ships, however Mendicant managed to locate one of the few that remained.
Interesting.
In the final hours of the war, Bornsteller prepared to activate the array, however Mendicant showed up with his fleet of nearly 5 million ships. It launched a huge attack on the Maginot Line, which was a Foreigner defensive front that protected the Empire's core worlds, and breached it with intent to reach the Ark. Mendicant sent a coded message to Offensive Bias, stating it would be absolutely relentless in its will to destroy the Ark. Interestingly though, Mendicant also offered Offensive the chance to join them, to which Offensive of course rejected. Offensive confronted it at the Maginot Line, armed with only the remainder of the Foreigner fleet, of which was massively outnumbered by the Flood fleet and its own intelligence. This led to a final naval battle between the two AIs, and Syllaball, if you will. Ultimately, Mendicant's rampancy clouded its perceptions, and it became too confident in its own superiority, and failed to anticipate its opponent's deceptive moves. During the battle, the Halos were fired, disabling the Flood control portions of Mendicant's fleet, which gave Offensive the upper hand, as he now controlled all of Mendicant's Floodless ships, and in only a matter of minutes, Offensive managed to outsmart and defeat Mendicant Bias.
Damn! So they actually did it. Actually beat him. That's crazy. I didn't think that. But then again, at the same time, if they didn't defeat it, then in the current Halo situation, Mendicant Bias would still be around and be still kind of, I don't know, like taking over the galaxy in a way.
After the battle, Offensive recovered Mendicant's personality construct array and took it to the Lesser Ark for study. Bornsteller put Mendicant on trial for betraying the Foreigner Empire, and it was ultimately decided to keep it alive. The reasoning for this was that it had intimate knowledge of the Flood, so it could be used if the Flood were to return.
Makes sense.
Mendicant was locked in eternal exile and entombed beneath a vast desert on the Ark, with only the thought of atonement allowed to it. To put into perspective how much wrong Mendicant actually did, the legal entity known as Catalog was aware of over 2.9 million cases pending. An unknown amount of time after the Halo array was fired, a part of Mendicant's personality construct array found its way on board a key ship. In an effort to make amends for its crimes against the Foreigners by aiding humanity, the fragment escaped the Lesser Ark on the key ship, which then crashed on Janjo Quam, the San Shayum homeworld. This ship was then explored and eventually made the centerpiece of High Charity by the Sanshayun.
That's really cool. That is super, super cool that they ended up making it like their Eiffel Tower. This is all well good, this story, but it's making me question, why would Mendicant Bias in any way try and help Master Chief? God, there's such a rabbit hole here, guys. It's hard to get around it. Do you know what I mean?
Mendicant's presence, they regarded it as an oracle. However, this was normally used for political manipulation, as the dormant AI wasn't known to have spoken at all in generations of the Sanshayun's recorded history. In 2525, the fragment was consulted by Ord Casto, the Minister of Fortitude, and Lord Maron, the Vice Minister of Tranquility. They wished to secure the large number of foreigner artifacts on Harvest to attempt to inaugurate a new age of reclamation. When Hod Rumt, who was the philologist, entered the data into the Matrix, Mendicant Bias came online. It revealed that the relics on Harvest were actually humans, and that the entire Covenant faith was based on ages-old mistranslation. The glyph present on the Luminary, which is an artifact used to locate other foreign artifacts, was misrepresented as reclamation, when in fact it only meant reclaimer. This had the potential to completely undermine the Covenant unity and faith, and the two ministers inducted the philologist into their plan, and brought about a political revolution to prevent this. This revolution ended up leading to the Human Covenant War. After realizing that his actions against the Forerunners had been mistaken, Mendicant announced its intention to the Covenant to bring the Reclaimers to the Ark. It attempted to leave High Charity by launching the key ship, however Let-Golo worms on board managed to disconnect it by chance. As a safety protocol, Mendicant was then formally disconnected afterwards to prevent it from commandeering the ship again.
Interesting.
Skipping forward a little less than 20 years to the fall of High Charity in 2552, Cortana fought Mendicant Bias to delay the launching of the High Charity key ship, which allowed the Master Chief to board it and return to Earth. In December of 2552, Mendicant's fragment was carried through the Void portal to the Lesser Ark, where the missing shard was finally, after hundreds of thousands of years, reunited with the part on the Ark. This allowed Mendicant Bias to partly reconstruct itself and regain control over its processors, although background processors in the Ark's computer systems attempted to halt its intrusion in the facility systems. On the Ark, Mendicant Bias tried to communicate with the Master Chief via terminals, and claimed that it sought atonement by helping the Spartan.
Okay, so that's how he's trying to redeem himself. I tell you what, guys, it's really, in my opinion, there's so much lore. It's hard to wrap my head around in some ways. It really is. There's bits where I know I've already seen before. Like, there's bits that obviously that's in the game, and there's bits that I've never seen before, and I'm trying to put them all together. And it's as if a lot of the lore was created after the first 3 games, so that it kind of, like, it just gave it a bit more depth. And because of that, it's hard for me to remember exactly what happened in the previous games, and then also interweave all this extra stuff into the background of it. Does that make sense? I feel like I should have watched this before I did my playthrough of the first 3 games, or at least probably between like Halo 2 and 3 or something like that, without the ending and kind of spoiling it for me. Do you know what I mean?
Also manipulated the content of some of the terminal's messages and transmissions to better suit its own aims. In its final message to the Spartan, it declared it was at the end of its life, as Chief and the Arbiter were going to fire Installation 04B, which would severely damage the Ark. We aren't exactly sure if Mendicant Bias was destroyed, however, as history tells us he survived far worse in the past.
Yeah, he's definitely still kicking around.
The long yet very eventful life of Mendicant Bias. We're still not sure if he's dead or not, but I'd hazard a guess at it not being dead. Interestingly, I do expect it to pop up in Halo Wars 2 due to it being set on the Ark, whether it be in just a small little Easter egg like in Halo 3, or whether it's integral to the story. Either way, we'll just have to wait and see. But
I'm really hoping in Halo Infinite we're going to get some, obviously, base layer information of the game, like an overarching story to that specific Halo Infinite game, a little bit of pushing in storyline if you've played all the rest of the games, but also a little bit of pushing when it comes to the depth of this lore, because there's a lot of it, and I feel like Halo Infinite would be very much a missed opportunity if they don't push this stuff, if they don't push this like Forerunner kind of war and Mendicant bias and stuff in Halo Infinite, then it's a missed opportunity. I really do, because there's so much depth here that will pull people in. If they concentrate on what just happened in the previous games and then what happens in Halo Infinite, I'm sure it'll be fun. I'm sure it'll be a great game. But they need to add a lot of this stuff into it, even if it's just like terminals, even if it's just a little bit of nodding here and there. But if they make it part of the main plot, like if there's some sort of connection between Cortana and Mendicant Bias, like if they're working together, or if she's like some sort of creation that's been influenced by do you get what I'm saying? That would be next level amazing. It's nearly endless.
Bottom dollar that I'll be doing many theory videos on Mendicant Bias in the near future.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for watching, guys. This video took me an absolutely insane amount of time to create.
I bet it did.
If you haven't already, please don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below telling me what you thought of the video, and if you think Mendicant Bias is still alive or not. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time, where we're going to be discussing the 3 most likely ways that the Flood will return.
All right, definitely go over to HiddenXperia's videos and give it a good old like. He totally deserves it. He has some of the best videos on YouTube. He really does. Yeah, I feel like I still have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions still, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. There's so many new names and so many new species that I don't know about. Like, what was that one called at the very beginning? The ones that are like older than everything else. Where is it?
These, of course, being...
Where is it? You little turd. Where is it?
Nation. And that the
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Come on. The timeless one? Like, what the hell? Like, these things are cool. The primordial, that's it. I need to find out more about what the primordial is and what that species is, because I feel like if I understand that, then I'll understand Mendicant Bias a little bit more as well, because that's obviously who they both have a good old Chin-Wag with, and they kind of communicate with. So I have no idea, guys. It gets very complicated, this Halo lore, and it makes me feel like I would understand it better if I started reading the books, because I'm a big book nerd, hence the t-shirt. Bookmarks are for quitters. Yeah, I read a lot of books, so maybe I should just read the original trilogy of the Forerunner trilogy. I think that would help me a ton. And I think it would get me even more hype. But we haven't got long until Infinite comes out. We've got like less than a week. Holy cow, guys. Less than a week. Whoo, it's going to be good. When's it come out? It comes out on the Wednesday of next week, which means I will hopefully have a video up that day, if not the following day, where we're going to be playing Halo Infinite on the hardest difficulty, trying to 100% complete it, which is going to be a horrific task, but I'm very excited. But for now, members, you're beautiful, you're amazing, I love you. I couldn't do this without you. I also could make videos every single day if it wasn't for these beautiful members right here. So thank you for supporting the channel as much as you do. I really appreciate it. Also, a link down below to my new merch, like the hat I'm wearing right now. Go and check it out. It's very limited stock. If you do buy an item from the website, you will also get a personalized video from me giving you a good old thank you. So thank you in advance. And get hyped. The merch is going to sell out quick. There's already quite a few gone. And yeah, get it while you can. What else? Links down below to all my socials, including the 2 different YouTube channels, OriginalHuman Geek, OriginalAdventures. Check them both out. Of course, there'll be a video for HiddenXperia's. A link down below to HiddenXperia's video as well. Please go and check that out, because he is awesome. And until next time, guys, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.